This somehow just got way worse for the Boston Bruins in the signing of Tanner Jeannot, as new details have been revealed in this signing, and fans are once again even more up in arms about this signing, going and kind of calling out Don Sweeney for his entire process along the way. We're going to be breaking down this new information, going over what could possibly be the plan for the Boston Bruins, because this genuinely makes no sense why this happened. We made a video on this yesterday. Be sure to check that out first, because gotta go over there, all that information. But even right now, things are still making zero sense for the idea behind this signing. Before we do jump into this, ladies and gentlemen, though, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We're on the road to 10K. You know, we got the big goal there. We're closing in on 8K. Your guys' sports been absolutely incredible as of late. I appreciate you, everybody, watching this video. But we need to jump into this because we got some stuff to break down. Now, coming out a few moments ago, of course, we know that the Tanner Jeannot signing, I'll kind of pull that up here first from Elliot Friedman, 5.3.4 to Boston. Of course, I don't think this is something that we need to repeat, because I feel like we all know about this at this point, and it's something that we don't want to continue hearing, because we just get made fun of for this signing, honestly. Everybody I've seen on Twitter, on X, has been completely ripping apart this signing, and rightfully so, but they're just making fun of the Boston Bruins, and obviously that's no fun. But a few minutes ago, not too long, this came out from Anthony DeMarco. I'll pull it up on the big screen, even though we want to hide this, put it in a box, lock it up, and put it under the bed. Not sure if it's out there, but Tanner Jeannot's contract with the Boston Bruins includes a full no-trade clause in year 1 and 2, 15-team no-trade clause in year 3, a 7-team no-trade clause in year 4, and there's nothing in year 5. I don't know how you'd, first of all, justify giving him the contract he got, a 5-year by 3.4. We know the projection was nowhere even close to that. Then you go out and say, hey, why not give him a no-trade clause so we're really locked into him for 2 years? Then you go a 15-team, half the league. Nobody will want him anyway, so it's not like it'll matter, but this is just genuinely insane to be able to offer a guy like Tanner Jeannot, who has zero offensive upside, really zero defensive upside at the end of the day too, and only brings physicality, locking him up to that deal in this no-trade clause. I don't know what his agent's doing, but he's doing all the right things, and it really makes me feel like even I could get a league minimum in the NHL at this point because of what Tanner Jeannot has been doing to this organization and how people have been reacting to this entire ordeal over the past few days. Now, once again, coming out, as we do look at Tanner Jeannot's JFresh chart, the defense is there. It's not the worst we've ever seen. However, it still is not good by any means, and that's taking that lightly. You see, the offense, 20%, the finishing 17, really has no offensive ability. It's projected 10% more. Before a fourth liner, the defense, I guess, it'll pass. I think is the only upside we can really take away from this. But JFresh now put out their in-depth analytic chart as well, and it goes to show even more. I'll pull it up on the big one once again here. The only thing that he brings is he's a pretty quick guy, pretty quick on zone exits, but his hitting, 97 percentile. Obviously, that is the only thing that you see here that is at least promising. Skating speed, even at 56%, that's mediocre in the league. That's what a majority of the league is running at. It is honestly shocking to see that a guy, if you look at this chart right here, a guy like Tanner Jeannot, you don't know the name, you see the stats, you're thinking he's on a league minimum, maybe a 1 year, 2 year deal at $1 million. Not a 5-year, $3.4 million deal for playing the fourth line on this team. And that's another big part as well, is that this team is not really built to have a guy like Tanner Jeannot on it right now. We do not yet have that number 2 right winger that we want, a second line winger. We need someone who's able to run those plays on that second line. And as of this point, there's a possibility that Tanner Jeannot is going to be filling that line. So if the Bruins are planning on playing him there and paying him that money, so be it. But it is certainly not the right direction to take. And we've seen a lot of things coming out here, and just like this one, where it's really going to show how bad the signing actually is compared to what the Bruins have had previously. Now, this career comparison, you take a look between Tanner Jeannot and Trent Frederic, very much the same player. Trent Frederic, honestly better, and he now is an 8-year deal at 3.85 with the Edmonton Oilers, and Tanner Jeannot, a 5-year, $3.4 million deal with the Boston Bruins. And putting it into perspective this way, looking at this, you get rid of some guys that you thought were going to be getting better. Trent Frederic gone, he wanted a contract. How much are you going to give him? Didn't really know. Trade him to Edmonton. Now you go out here and get Tanner Jeannot as his replacement. Trent Frederic is a Tanner Jeannot, but a better Tanner Jeannot. He don't have the fighting ability, the hitting that he does, but he still is, and I would say the 90th percentile in both of those categories. So even then, he may not be as good as Tanner Jeannot in that category, but everywhere else, he is much better. And even kind of going back with it, there was definitely a deal that could have gotten done here, and it is genuinely insane to see this. Now, Don Sweeney has come up with a few quotes, kind of said some interesting stuff based on the past few signings, and relating all this to the Tanner Jeannot one, he had this to say. Going on first, of course, the juice is coming, and we expect to be a much more competitive team, and the improvements now come from within. So, it does seem like Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins are done at the free agent market. Of course, there has to be some trades coming. That's going to be a video later today that we're going to be covering, but looking at the way that Don Sweeney goes here, comparing this and kind of saying this is a much more competitive team is very difficult to justify even saying, The only, I think, competition this team will have is who's going to be in the bottom six. We know we have so many younger players, and once again, that'll be covered in a little bit later in a video, and the bottom six is too heavy to be able to be, a positive playoff team, It's just not what we need to see, and Don Sweeney just, I don't think, understands that, and even though it is going to be a more competitive team, it's not going to have any impact on how good this team does play. You're really just wasting away some of this younger talent, not letting them get into the NHL, and going to, put them in through this whole perspective that we saw with Lysell and Merkelov so far. But taking a look at Tanner Jeannot's stats, obviously, it's no surprise he's not a big point guy, except in Nashville in 21-22. 41 points there in 81 games, 24 goals. Nothing came close to that, and if you could even see that come close to it for another year, I think we can call at least this contract a partial win this far, but the way that his game has evolved over the last few years, not just with Nashville, not just with Tampa, but even with LA last year, he's become a guy that, is only known for his hitting, is only known for his fighting. That is it. He's a guy that you fear, but nothing more on the offensive side of the game, on the defensive side of the game, and it, once again, goes to show that this team just doesn't seem ready to be able to make that next move yet, unless there are some trades happening behind the works. But you have another quote here from Don Sweeney before we do jump into the last few screenshots. I do believe when you put the whole group together, what they're capable of doing, we'll score enough if we play the right way, we'll defend a hell of a lot better, and I expect our goaltending to be significantly better. Now, this quote, of course, obviously, is what you're going to see Don Sweeney say. He's not going to say, this team's okay, it's going to be okay, but he does not seem confident with the offense. And you see there at the top, we'll score enough if we play the right way. He knows that this team, if they're not playing, a solid hockey, they're not going to win games. And that's not something that you want your GM coming out and really acknowledging when it's going down to playoff time, possibly being in the running for a playoff spot. I doubt the Bruins will with this current roster, but this could be a very interesting look for the Bruins this season, whether they choose to go and flip a lot of these players at the deadline, whether they're trying to, get better but get worse. It makes not very much sense what the Bruins are trying to do, but we do have a few picks over the next few years in round one, so the Bruins are going to be a team that are going to be, making some waves across the NHL, whether it's going to be via trade, whether via tanking. We still are going to be yet to find out, but when it comes down to it, I feel like this is really what we all think about Tanner Jeannot from the Bruins Network on X. Tanner Jeannot, 28, hard-hitting, physical, mean fourth-line winger. Doesn't score, doesn't produce, but can fight anyone. An ugly contract for someone only palatable, but can be buried in the AHL for $2.275 million in dead money, while the cap still rises significantly. So, as you see Bruins Network say right here, really the only positive to take away from this is that he could be sunk into the AHL for a decent amount of price. It's a lot better than what it would be if, a couple of years down the line you need 3.4. Send him down the AHL. Let his contract go down there. That's the worst case. Obviously, we hope he does turn into that player that he was with Nashville in 21-22. Still a very far-looking and far-reaching thing, but, I don't want to count it out here for this Boston Bruins team. So let me know what you think about Tanner Jeannot in the comments below. What do you think about how this team is running? Because obviously the offense is not looking great. We're not looking really anywhere near a playoff spot just yet, and as we kind of come back into the projection, 2 years, 1.4, and the actual contract being given a 5-year at 3.4. It's not a great look, and it doesn't really seem like the Boston Bruins are getting anywhere here with this contract, but I want to know what you guys think here down below in the comments about the no-trade clause. Are we thinking this is something that, is justifiable? I don't think anybody, first of all, likes the signing, and adding this on top of it only seems like they're heading in the exact wrong direction with the signing. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Don Sweeney. Rip him in the comments below. Obviously, we've done that here a few times throughout the season. If you're new, this is not something that we have been new to here in the comment section. So be sure to go do that. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. Remember, we got another video coming out later. You're going to want to watch that. It comes with a few things that are going to be coming next for the Bruins and a lot of things basically confirming what we're going to see. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.